Yeah, they don't really at school give you an hour's lesson of how to clean yourself, do they? You know, I don't. I can't remember it anyway.
Yeah.
At my school.
But I remember like even small things like using a washcloth to wash yourself and all these things. I remember like growing up, obviously when you first growing up and someone just said you're just going to take a shower, the first thing you do is just grab the bar of soap and start washing yourself with it, if you see what I mean, you know? Then you get a little bit older and start, you think, you know, someone says, oh, you know, if you use a wash rag, you'll be able to wash yourself, you'll be even cleaner and, you know, scrub your skin and then, you know, even better, you know, even cleaner, even fresher, you know? And it's just like, you know, when you slowly start to kind of grow and evolve and, you know, start to know these things, it just makes your life better. You know, so it's like, even those small little things are problem solving, you know, because through those, learning those things, you're making your life better. You're implementing certain little things into your life, into your routine, into your, what you've got going on that just, you know, helps to make your life better, you know. So that in itself, to me, is problem solving, you know. Anything that is beneficial for you and making your life better in a productive way, you know. You know, it's you
know. I know that when I was born, okay, and when my brother was born, whatever, yeah, we were a big problem to my mum and dad at that time. Do you know what I mean? You know, and you think about babies, they are kind of a big problem. You know, like when your son was born, yeah. Not, you know, like I don't know what your reaction was, but I can remember when I found out when my wife was pregnant, right? I thought, wow, you know. It's a big blow in a kind of way, you know, it's a big responsibility kind of way. That's it, you've got to stay in for a few years, you know, because you're having a child now, do you know what I mean? Yeah, and it takes two to look after a baby when you think about it.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You know, I remember sort of taking in turns and all that, do you know what I mean? Waking up and all that, you know, and feeding my first son, you know, whatever.
Yeah, me too.
You know, and it is a big problem, isn't it, a child, you know, sort of how to... Because you don't, you know, like I say, like when you have a baby for the first time, it doesn't come with instructions, you know, on how to, you know, how to deal with a baby in a way. And they don't really teach you at school, really, do they? It's kind of like you've got to learn how to do it as you go.
Yeah.
In a kind of way, you know, your mum or dad for the first time ever, you know, and it's a new problem in a funny way, you know, and it kind of changes your life in a funny way, where you've got to kind of give up a lot of things to stay in, you know, to keep an eye on that child, you know what I mean, every day, every hour, in a funny way, you know. You can't leave that child, really, you know, especially, you know, in the first 6 months or whatever. You can't leave it for 1 hour, anyway, you're not far away anyway.
Well, not for the first couple of years, mate.
No.
To be honest, it's not for the first couple of years that you can start to be a little bit more like, you know, even then you still got to be, like you said, as a parent you slowly develop the eyes in the back of your head. And the amount of times I remember my kids when they were young, both my son and my daughter, when they've almost fallen or almost something, and I've just seen it out the corner of my eye and grabbed them, and my wife kind of been like amazed, kind of like, you know, kind of looking at me like, you know. Like that instinctual thing of like you just somehow you just notice it. It's just you know.
Yeah, I remember when my oldest son, this is going back 30 years ago because he's 32 now, do you know what I mean? But when he was 6 months old, he fell off the bed and he was shaking like anything, you know, like having a fit.
Shit, yeah.
And luckily we only lived down the road, alright. Like
from the hospital, yeah?
5 minutes away.
Oh, thank God.
To a major hospital, you know, we got him there in time.
Thank God.
You know, and he was alright, thank goodness, you know, we just, you know, just hit his brain and got knocked out, do you know what I mean? Looked like a coma.
Shit.
Or something, you know.
So what happened, you just rolled off the bed or something?
Just rolled off, you know, you changed the nap on the bed, whatever, and, you know, you didn't think he was going to crawl, did we? And he did, he crawled off the bed. You know, it's the first time he crawled, really, do you know what I mean, and come off the bed. But next bit we were at hospital, but he was, you know, thankfully alright, do you know what I mean? Babies basically are a big problem, really, and you really got to appreciate your mum and dad, really, sometimes, don't you? Do you know what I mean? When you think about it. You know, so like I say, I when I was about a teenager, I used to be a bit rude to my mum, but now I really appreciate what she did for me, you know.
Because, and how much is required?
Well, you think you know they act as sort of like, I mean, my mum and dad divorced when I was about 3 years old. Yeah. So they were looking after me the first 3 years, do you know what I mean? But you think that my mum was there every day, do you know what I mean? You know, looking after me.
Yeah.
and going to work for me every day
Mm.
and trying to support me, you know. And it's not until you're a bit older how you appreciate what they do for you. You
What
know?
is required? How much is needed?
Yeah.
Not only being there and loving your children, not only being present, loving your children, giving them time, affection, etc., etc., etc. But from a financial perspective as well, you know. When you become a parent yourself, you fully understand. Like me, I became like I said before, my first son was born when I was 20.
It changes your life.
But
doesn't it?
I'm lucky that I was kind of like mature, a lot more mature than a lot of people. I think personally, you know, at 20 years old, you know, I was, you know, thankfully, I was gonna say. So I think that really helped me in a lot of ways. But like you said, it's still a learning curve. Like, you know, being a first time parent. Thankfully as well too, my wife is a few years older than me. You know, my wife's just a couple of years older than me. So both of us doing it together, it was fine. Everything was fine. We, you know, as soon as we found out, we made sure, you know, because at the time she was living out in she had her own place and I had my own place. So we obviously decided then we wanted to get a place together and all that kind of stuff. So we found a place literally within a month and a half. We found somewhere to live. Yeah, found a place, nice place. And started buying everything we needed. Obviously, you know, obviously if you're gonna have a child, you know, you need to buy your cot, you need to buy everything. You know, your changing mat, your cot, your crib, because you're gonna have a crib to begin with. Your changing mat, your nappies, all your baby clothes, baby toiletries, you know, soaps and shampoos and toothpaste and all these kind of things.
It's an expensive thing, really, basically.
Lots of things. There's lots of things that you need to buy and that are required, you know, that I need. Obviously, baby bottles as well. You need baby bottles. You need formula. You need milk, baby milk. Because obviously sometimes some women, even though they do breastfeed, they might also do the bottle during the night to give themselves a break and, you know, start again the next day. So yeah, it's like, you know, you need to buy a sterilizer as well for the bottles, because you need to make sure, because the baby obviously is very young and very fragile, and you need to make sure that every bottle is sterilised. You know, you need to clean the bottles, wash them first, and then put them in the sterilizer, and then you make your baby formula.
Basically, it's a big difference from being a young and free teenager than having a baby. You know,
Yeah.
completely different.
You got to get your head screwed on and get your focus on and handle your shit. You got to. It's not hard to do. A lot of it's instinctual. You understand that. Like me and my wife, obviously she was off because she was on maternity leave. So during that period, she did a little bit more than me, because obviously sometimes I was at work. But whenever I was off or when I got home from work, I would always, like, as soon as I got home from work, I would kind of like just say to her, okay, I'm gonna pop outside very quickly and have a quick cup of tea and a quick little smoke, and I'll be back in, and I'll take over. So I'll take over for a few hours before we go to bed, and then she might get up first in the night, because she knows I've got work the next morning, so she might get up first, you know, to feed the baby. And if he wakes up again, then I'll get up, if you see what I mean, and then feed him, and then hopefully he'll go back off to sleep, and then I can get a few more hours before I have to get up again and go to work. But it was a partnership, you know, we did it as a partnership, and we figured it out together. And it's, like I said, a lot of it's instinctual, common sense, you know, it's just, and you could do research as well on Google today, like you could look up on Google today, like even, okay, let's say for example, like newborns, say for example, under the age of 1 year old, are not allowed to have honey, let's say for example.
Right, I didn't know that.
If you see what I mean. They're not supposed to have honey.
Why is that then?
I don't know, but it's recommended that newborns under the age of 1 year old not supposed to consume honey. I'm just random example. But that's
odd.
I know.
That's true.
I know, but well, it is on the back of every honey bottle and jar. It is written, not for consumption for children under the age of 1 year old. So if you see what I mean. So yeah. So it's just like even basic things like that. It's like if you're unaware of these things and you're not sure, you can look it up today. That's the beauty of today's society. You know, you can, and there's lots of people you can reach out to if you're lucky enough to have your mum or your dad, like the grandparents involved in the equation. You know, you can always ask them for advice. You know, if they're in the equation. You know, so you know. problem solving, figuring it out. It's using your resources and your common sense and your logic and your critical thinking to make informed decisions. You know, trust your instincts and your intuition. So.
I wonder how many babies, say in the UK, are planned, and how many babies are not planned. If you see what I mean, like.
I would probably estimate that a large majority of pregnancies are unplanned.
Yeah, I do too.
But at the same time, people knew what they were doing. Does that make sense? Because they didn't really plan it, but if you're having unprotected sex, and as a man, you know that when you finish, you're finishing, inside your lady, then you know what that could potentially lead to.
Well, I think when I first started having sex, with women, I didn't realise how easy it is to get a woman pregnant.
Extremely.
Easy.
Extremely.
You know what I mean?
Especially if you're quite young and you're quite strong and fertile, as she is too.
Yeah.
Like she's good.
So
She's healthy and her eggs are fertile, and
I think lots of children are born, right, just pure because the two people are having fun.
And not only that, but there's some instances as well, believe it or not, where people get impregnated, women have got impregnated by pre-cum.
Pre-cum?
Pre-cum as well. If you see what I mean.
Sorry. What's that?
You gotta be kidding me, man.
I don't know, I've never heard of it. Pre-cum. Pre-cum sounds quite rude.
And that, sometimes before you come, like before you ejaculate, a while before you ejaculate, you might get a little bit of like pre-cum.
Okay, yeah, right.
If you see, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Prior.
This is getting funny.
Yeah, I don't know why we're going down this road, but because we're talking about it now, we've got to finish it.
Funny.
But obviously,
before
when you're having intercourse with your lady, before you might ejaculate, sometimes you might get you might get a little bit that pre-cum before, So there are people that have got pregnant. Women have got pregnant off that pre-cum. Not even the person ejaculating inside them, but that's just during that sexual intercourse, that pre-cum that came out, that little bit of pre-cum that came out before the person might have got to that point of ejaculation, that has caused women to be pregnant before as well.
It's like condoms, really, isn't it? Like they leak and everything, don't they? Do you know what I mean?
That happens too. And there used to be instances too where sometimes people would poke the hole. Sometimes people would bloody poke holes in condoms and shit. Sometimes the man, sometimes the woman, even.
I mean, that's a big problem, isn't it? When you get pregnant, do you know what I mean? And you didn't expect it to happen in a kind of way, do you know what I mean? I mean, it creates big problems out there, doesn't it? Children in a kind of way, like they are big responsibilities, really, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? And I think to have, I mean, I didn't realise actually, sort of like how responsible you actually got to be to have a child in a kind of way. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was in a funny way, But you got to have money. You got, really, you got to treat them for holiday once a year, in a kind of way, as they're getting older a little bit, or somehow. Do you know what I mean? Basically, children do cost money. I think in these day and age. Do you know what I mean? I think they're. I think they're one of the biggest problems in life, actually, in a kind of way, I don't think I'd want another one, if you sort of mean. I've got 3, and I wouldn't want another one because it'd be a big problem to me, I think, it would, I don't think I'd live as long, for one, I think like they do, children do make your hair go grey a little bit, they do age you a bit quicker, I think. I'm not 100% sure, I think sometimes it does depend what kind of life you got. Like if you are financially free, and you are well educated, and you not just financially free, you are free, do you know what I mean? To free with your time, and I think like if you're 2 parents bringing up somebody, you know, in a good, nice, beautiful house and that, you know, things could be beautiful. You know, and you're not going to get so many problems in life, you know.
Yeah.
But if you've got poor parents, you know, and you're in a poor family, you know, and they're struggling, you know, and they don't, you know, you've got two parents that don't want to live, basically, do you know what I mean, you know, and they're not enjoying their jobs, you know, and you're a baby, you know, and your child growing up, those two parents, do you know what I mean, it's going to be a big problem to you, I think, you know, where it's not going to be such a big problem if you've got two parents that are educated and well off.
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And as long as you've got the right kind of guidance from both parents as well, like, you know, a father and a mother has a different, you know, a mother and a father both have a different roles roles that they play within their child's life, you know, and both are kind of very important, both are equally important.
I don't think necessarily, not necessarily, like when...
Well, I think it's definitely more, I think women definitely can definitely survive on their own, raise children on their own without a father, you know. But statistics have proven that large majority of single parent households, the child goes on to, there's a high percentage of that child going on to be imprisoned, or, you know, to have some kind of, you know, to go, you know, have some kind of bad kind of...
I think there's, you know, people, like some mothers don't even like their children, do you know what I mean?
But honestly,
Yeah,
I was reading some statistics the other day that were quite staggering, and I don't know if they were completely true, because you never know if something's completely 100% true today with anything really. But I was reading these statistics, and it's basically breaking down all these statistics of all these children, most especially with boys, you know, coming from a single parent household, that a large majority of them went on to be, you know, end up going to prison a few times, or whatever the case may be, having, you know, going down the wrong path, so to speak, you know. So I think it is essential to have, you know, you need both kind of roles within your life really to kind of guide you, especially as a man, as you're getting older, as you're becoming a young teenage boy, and then you slowly, you know, become a man. You need, I think it's important to have a strong male figure in your life to teach you and show you how to be a man. You know, you need someone to take, like, it's always good to have an example, if you see what I mean. You can become that, don't get me wrong, like I had to become that by myself. Yeah, I had to learn how to become that by myself. But I think it's very important, I think I would have even been even further today, even more advanced today, if I had someone else, let's say a real strong male figure in my life who was, you know, a real good father to me, let's say, for example. Then that would have helped me probably even more in my life, if you see what I mean. But I think it is very important, especially for, like I say, for young males and for girls too as well. I think it's important for men to learn how to become a man from their father, and I think it's also important for a father there to be there to protect his daughter, if you see what I mean. It's kind of you kind of have a different role too when it comes to with your kids as well, as to how you kind of approach the approach you take with your son as the approach you take with your daughter in a way, if you see what I mean. You want to ensure that your daughter is protected, and, you know, of course your son too, but you're more kind of protective of your daughter as a man.
I think there's a different relationship with the mother,
yeah,
and daughter,
yeah,
you know, and son,
yeah,
father and son, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but like, so when I did have my divorce and that, and I got custody of my children, and I had my custody weekends.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt like I was a mother and father.
Yeah.
You know, I had to cook for them.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, tidy up after them and care for them, put their socks on, do you know what I mean? You know, and I just feel like there's not really much difference, really. You know, like some women are compassionate and some men are compassionate.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and some men aren't compassionate at all. Some women aren't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some women are tomboys. Do you know what I mean? Some men are girlies, whatever. You know, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I just think there's a mixture of people out here. You know, it's phenomenal, really. You know, some people get married to someone very young, you know, and they're very old. You know, an old man marrying a young woman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, think, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes the other way around, an old woman marrying a young man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And having a child, you know. So, you know, I just think there's so many different combinations out there, you know. And then there's different mental health problems. You know, some people suffer from this mental health problem, you know, whatever. And, you know, I was just saying, you know, we're all different.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
we all got different jobs a little bit. We all got different problems a little bit, but I think we've got the same problems a little bit. You know, like as we said before, we're all facing death. That's one. That's, you know.
That's not even a problem. I don't even see that as a problem though.
Yeah, I think some people do.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
I see that as a part of the cycle of life. Like, how many things that can you actually name that you know, that are alive that doesn't eventually die, you know?
the universe.
Well, that's probably it, mate. That's probably it.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Yeah. But I mean, like the weather can be a problem, can't it?
It can be, yeah, sometimes, yeah.
You know,
especially if you're in a place where you get lots of hurricanes or tornadoes or, you know, tsunamis even, you know, God forbid. You know, some people that live in certain places, certain islands and certain places, and they're prone to tsunamis, you know, and you get some places too people live, you get landslides and floods, extreme flooding where people hold houses and villages and everything gets washed away. You know, nature can be very, very cruel and ferocious sometimes, you know, obviously, you know, but, yeah.
I think, like, if you're rich, okay, and on an island, okay, and you built a beautiful house, and a hurricane come along, you know, blew it away, you're going to be quite upset.
Well, I think if you're that rich and you built some place on an island, the place that you would build today would be able to withstand all that type of shit. You know, if you've got that kind of money, you can buy, you know, you can build some place that is almost indestructible today to a degree.
Probably,
you know?
yeah, probably you're right.
It's just like the same people that build all these underground bunkers that are able to survive these, you know, atomic bombs and all this type of shit. You know, people are able to create this stuff today where you can almost, you know, make your you know, if you've got enough money, of course a lot of money is required, but if you can afford it, you can make your place almost indestructible, you know, where no one can get in if you really didn't want them to. Nothing or no one can get in.
I've seen these boats, right, yeah, where they got these places where they got boats everywhere, do you know what I mean? Like, quite beautiful boats too, do you know what I mean? Quite posh yachts and things like that, do you know what I mean? And sometimes the sea comes up and just blows all them away.
Yeah.
You can't control the sea. You know, it's so powerful, do you know what I mean? The ocean, you know, it's a big problem really, you know, to a lot of people sometimes, you know, they sometimes blow ships over, do you know what I mean, down a lot of times too, the ocean does, do you know what I mean? You know, and I think if you don't own anything, the weather can't be so much of a problem to you, you know, like if you own a farm basically, the weather's going to be a big problem to you, you know what I mean, you know,
yeah.
If it's going to be sort of raining one year, you know, non-stop, you're going to lose all your crops and things. But if you don't own anything, you're not going to lose anything in a kind of way. You with me? You know, so it's not a problem to you. You know, so there's two sides. You know, like I think, like, only because you don't own anything, right? I think, like, when you own things, you get more problems in life. You know?
Yeah.
When you don't own things,
the more attachments you have, the more.
I think. Yeah, that's why birds don't get any problems. They don't really own anything, do they? They just sort of like, they just fly to tree in a kind of way, you know. You know. But yeah, problems, eh? Problem solving. You know, I wonder what problems I'm gonna get tomorrow. You know.
Like I said before, mate, no problems, only solutions, mate. You know, somehow you've got to find a way forward, to keep pushing, you know. So that is always the goal, you know. Face things head on, you know. Try to take things in your stride, you know. I think that's always the best approach, you know. take things in your stride, and you know.
I mean, even if I went out, say tomorrow, yeah, and I bumped into a girl, you know, met a girl, and I started having a new relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sort of like taking on a new problem in a funny way. You know, I think like everything's a problem, isn't it? In a funny way. I think. Even going to sleep. A bit, you know, like you gotta lay down now, you know, you gotta try to get to sleep. You know, it's a problem. And then when you wake up, you know, it's, you know, you gotta get out of bed, you know, and deal with the next problems. You know, I just think like every moment's a problem in a funny way. You know. I think it, you know, it's good idea to get ahead. That's one thing I feel like that's quite important. Like for instance, you know, like get ahead with food a little bit if you can. You know, you know, like squirrels. You know, they stock up. You know, and it's good to sort of think ahead. So if you get ahead with things, when problems do come up, you can quickly solve them. You know, because you've sorted out